Hey everybody, how are we doing tonight? I am Straight Jacket Jim, and it kind of looks like the moment I've got a blank screen here, but that can't be right. Are we
Please tell
missing
me
something? Oh no, that was doing a bit, Pete. I was doing a bit, so
that. Oh,
don't
you
worry,
did
don't
a
worry.
bit.
I was
Oh
doing a
God,
bit
you're doing a bit.
because we haven't got your video in there just yet. That's
Right,
okay.
it was a good bit, mate. It
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
really good bit. My apologies.
How you doing, Pete?
I'm going well. It's good to be back on the show. First one for me for the year, though. Yourself and Stormie have been hammering them out the last couple of weeks, and it's been great. Yeah, just busy. It's been a busy start to the year. There's a lot of change happening, but really, really good and really excited to be back. And hello to you watching and to you in Twitch chat as well. It's really good to see you and know that you're there. And looking forward to a really big year, and in particular, looking forward to moving this show into our revamped studios very, very soon as well. Mate, how about yourself? Are you good?
I am doing really well. I'm also very excited about the new studio coming up. It is going to be incredible. You guys cannot wait. Like you would have seen the pictures that Pete's been putting up on our socials and whatnot. But it is just going to be amazing once we get in there, which hopefully, fingers crossed, will be next week.
100% rock and roll. Insert Pete here. I really like it. That's really good. If you're listening to this on audio podcast, that's very clever. That's very clever that you've just put insert Pete here on my little screen there, mate. Thank you.
That's
I appreciate that. I feel loved.
That's it. We want everybody to know that you are here and talking with us, and not that it's just me being here as a talking head. So, but we got some stuff to talk about tonight, and it's quite exciting because there's been a little bit going on the last week. But of course, before we go too much further, we've got to jump in and do our bloody good game of the week. So, Pete, we'll go with you first about your bloody good game of the week.
Thank you, and big shout out to our mates at Aussie Broadband, the ones who pump this glorious, glorious internet into the Game on Australia team and streams. But yes, the bloody good game of the week. Now, you might be finding this quite interesting to see what's up showing on the screen right now, but for those of you listening on podcast, what's being shown is Astro's Playroom, and you might think to yourself, okay, hang on, Astro's Playroom, as in PS5 Astro's Playroom. This has been out for quite some time. Why the hell are you talking about this, you peanut? Why don't you just be a little bit more topical and a little bit more now and a little bit more what's happening? And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I've only just recently gotten into this game off the back of A, having gotten a PS5 in the first place, because I could finally get one. And B, my daughters are playing the absolute hell out of this game. Now, being a built-in game, I wrote it off. And that was wrong of me. And that's why I'm bringing it up tonight. Because it's a really clever game and it's a really amazing tech demo. And I wouldn't even call it a tech demo. I mean, there's so much more to it. The secrets that you can find, the way that it uses quite exhaustively the different functions of the PS5 controller. The Easter eggs as you're seeing right now, he's just pulled that thing out of the ground and it's revealed a motion controller. I suppose the reason why I'm really bringing this up is because throughout this game, it's full of collectibles. Okay, so there's puzzle pieces that you collect and you create this mural, but you also go through and you collect nostalgic pieces of PlayStation equipment. And I just wanted to bring it up as a really clever way that I've felt that PlayStation has introduced the functionality and tech of the PlayStation 5 and the controller, but B, also like a really big nod to the history of PlayStation and a really fun, clever way of showing that history to new audiences as well. So for me, this is a case of, yes, I know this has been out for ages. I wrote it off and I'm here to say that I'm wrong. And I'm also here to say that if you too have written it off, I would thoroughly implore you to jump onto your PS5 and give this a fair go and have a good go right the way through, collect everything, play it all the way to end game, and really immerse yourself in the nostalgia and the clever way that it does things.
It always kind of struck me as a little bit Wii Sports like, in that, yeah, like Wii Sports was, it was a very basic sort of a game, but it showed you what the Wii was capable of. And I think that was the important bit, was that it got you used to the motion control. It's like back in the day, like with Solitaire and Minesweeper, because when those were released on Windows 3.11, they were all designed to get you used to using the mouse. And I feel like Astro's Playroom is doing that as well, because getting used to the PS5 controller and just showing off the graphical capability of the PS5, and it looks absolutely amazing. I had a bit of a play with it round a friend's place one time, and yeah, it blew me away in the little bit that I got to play with it.
Now, mate, my computer's Wi-Fi is back working again. So if you give me 2 seconds, I'm going to shift over to my computer and get my ugly mug back on the screen.
No worries. Well, while you're doing that, I'm going to have a chat about my bloody good game of the week, which is it's been a long time coming, I have to say, for this game. So we've been keeping an eye on this one here at Game on Oz for about the last 2 years. It showed up. We actually had one of the designers, Alex from Melonhead Games in South Australia, on the podcast one time. The video's a bit loud. Hang on. So it is. Hang on. We'll turn that down a bit. So yeah, let me start that again. So yeah, we've been keeping our eyes on this one for a while now here at Game on Oz. We had one of the developers, Alex, on the show. Must be about 2 years ago now, to have a chat about this, and there was a demo at the time that was on as part of one of the Steam festivals that they do, so we got to play a little bit then, and it was pretty solid back then. But being able to play the game now, because it's coming out on Friday 17th of February, the full game will be released, and I've had the chance to play it. I've had a copy of it, bit of an advanced look at it, and I've been having so much fun with it. It's just the way everything flows together, and it's just so much fun. You get ranks, and like normally when I play a game and it's got ranks in it, that I don't really feel all that pushed to try and get like the A rank and the S rank. This one I feel pushed to do it, because it flows so well. It's so much fun. There's multiple paths through the level, so trying to find each of those little paths through is just absolutely amazing. And yeah, I cannot wait for the rest of the world to get their hands on Rooftop Renegade by Melonhead Games, Adelaide Indie Studio.
What I really love about this game, I had a chance to actually see Rooftop Renegade for the first time at PAX last year, PAX Rising. And what I love about this game is just how you can just smoothly cruise through the game, right? And obviously, ultimately, the point of the game is to master it, so you can do that really well. But I just love the way the levels connect. I love the level design. I mean, there are 2D side scrollers where, the shooters, for example, where you sort of make your way through, and it has you stop because you're picking up power-ups along the way, and it sort of has opportunities to break momentum and then pick the momentum back up and so on and so forth. I just love the whole point of this is to keep that momentum going, and to just be consistently hammering through the game at pace. And I just think like it must just feel so incredibly clean and so freeing and almost cathartic once you really get your skill level up and start hitting those S ranks on this game.
It really does. And I will say it's very hard to hit the S ranks early on. So you've got to level up and unlock new kicks, they call them, and they contain your abilities. And as you get more kicks, like stuff will kick in, like different cooldowns and things like that. So you won't be getting a lot of S ranks straight out of the start. but it is still just so much fun when you do get those better kicks and you go back to the game and you just try again to go through those levels and get the better ranks.
Do you think ranking games are a bit of flavour of the month at the moment, thanks to... I mean, I know these guys have been developing Rooftop Renegade for a while, but thanks to, Hi-Fi Rush, for example. I mean, Hi-Fi Rush, to be honest with you, actually, I'm really noticing it at the moment that of these ranks. So Hi-Fi Rush is one that I've been playing lately with the ranking. And Sonic, the latest Sonic game on the which I've been playing on the PS5, also has ranks for when it drops you into the speedrunning levels.
Look, the ranking generally comes, I've found, from the hack and slash games, so like your Devil May Cries and your Bayonettas and games like that. I found, so it's not. I'm no stranger to it. It is, and even Hi-Fi Rush is that hack and slash sort of vibe of a game. So it doesn't surprise me that Hi-Fi Rush has got that in there. But I think where there's a purpose for it, it's fine. Like the Sonic game, I haven't really played it to really know how the ranking impacts things. But for things like Hi-Fi Rush, it's just that sort of game that feels to me like it has the ranking. And Rooftop Renegades itself also feels like the sort of game that a ranking would be good in. And it doesn't matter if you don't get the S ranking. If you keep doing the levels, you grind, you get more experience, and you'll eventually get to the level up and unlock more stuff. So it's can be a little grindy, but it's not a bad grindy because all the levels just feel so good. They flow really well. And I must say, it's got multiplayer in it as well. I haven't actually tried the multiplayer, mainly because it's local multiplayer only, and my housemate is currently off over east, so I haven't had someone that I've been able to do that with. But because in the normal levels, there are these gunners that appear in some levels that will shoot things, so more traps will pop up, or one of the boosts that you're currently on, like the blue grind rails, they'll shoot that and it will stop working and you won't get as big a boost anymore. And the multiplayer is there are 3 people can play as those gunners and 1 person plays as Svetlana the runner going through the stage. So it's a very cool little game, and yeah, highly recommended on Friday when you're looking around and it gets a release.
One of the things that I'm just going to take this back to the ranking systems in Sonic. I really love the latest Sonic game. I actually think they've done a really cool job of creating this open world and story. But one of the things that I think it doesn't do that well is that your ranking when it comes to doing the runs, it's dependent upon things that don't stack up in terms of the same type of skill, right? So, for example, to get an S ranking, right, you'll have to tick off 4 critical objectives, but those objectives aren't tied together closely enough for the skill to be learning how to make it all happen while you're trying to run at the speed of light, basically, right? So, like I've noticed with that game, like what I can do is I can go, all right, I'm just going to keep grinding this level until I get the objective for do this level in under a minute 20. And then once I've got that done, I'm going to slowly make my way through this track. And I'm going to get all of the start points. And then I'm going to start again, and I'm going to slowly make my way through this track. And I'm going to hit this other objective. And I'm going to hit this other objective. And I think that to me is not really, is not what a ranking system like a D through S rank should be. I just think it's too easy to tick off the hardest one, and then you can get your S ranking by grinding the others slowly. This game, Rooftop Renegade, sounds to me like to actually get your S ranking, you have to have some significant skill and tie all of those elements together. And that's what I think an S ranking, or that's what I think a ranking system does well.
Yeah, and to me, it sounds like Sonic doesn't have so much of a ranking system more than a collectible checklist or an objective checklist, and it doesn't really matter. Yeah. So, and to me, that sort of ranking doesn't really matter, whereas the Rooftop Renegades ones, it's about collecting these crystal gems you got in there and about finding the fastest path and using the most economical use of your abilities that your kicks give you. So I think that's a fair criticism of the ranking system in Sonic, because it doesn't sound like an actual ranking system. It sounds more like it sounds more like a checklist. Yeah, cool. But those are our bloody good games of the week. Thank you so much, Aussie Broadband, for sponsoring this segment. We're very, very grateful for your help. That's it. So we've got a few other stories, and I think the big one that I want to touch on, because I've been harping on about this for a long time and wondering why it's taking so long for this to get through, and that's the Microsoft acquisition of Activision-Blizzard. Now, I know here we were very happy that this was happening, and we thought with what Microsoft is doing that they could be a really good influence on Activision-Blizzard and help them get their act together. But I think it was late last year, the FTC, I think, the body in the US that assesses these acquisitions to see if it's fair and will reduce competition and will be a detriment to the market, said that they were going to sue to stop the acquisition. And then this week as well, the UK competition watchdog has come out and said that, yes, this deal could harm gamers. So it's kind of looking a little bit shaky, well, a lot shaky for Microsoft Activision-Blizzard purchase.
I think the harsh reality here, right, is that, just give me a second, I'm just going to turn my light on. Right, so the hard reality here is that we will never actually know the answer to that question until it happens. Right? Like they can forecast the way that this is all going to pan out as much as they want. But we never will know the answer to that until this happens. And unfortunately, it's my son in the background. And unfortunately, that may just be enough I'm back, everyone. That may just be enough to can the entire operation. Now, I personally think that, and I've said this the entire time, that if you're Microsoft, why wouldn't you gate PlayStation and Nintendo from there? Like, I mean, seriously, in the world that we live in, where it's all about content and what IP you own, if you've just purchased Activision Blizzard, sure, you tick the boxes on the contracts that you have to, but why wouldn't you do things like, at the very least, hey, the latest Call of Duty from Activision Blizzard is going to come out 60 days earlier on Xbox Series X than it is on PlayStation 5. Or something along the lines of we're just flat out not going to put it on any other competing platform because we own the IP, right? Now, I personally feel that it would actually be, in terms of sales, it would be not in a brand's best interest to do that anyway, right? But if you're trying to win the content war, then the biggest weapon in your arsenal is exclusivity.
And that's the thing that the Xbox One got heavily criticized for, was the exclusive titles that it didn't have. That there wasn't a lot there that was just exclusive to Xbox or even PC and Xbox. And look, I do get it, and Microsoft has even made statements that said if we will sign a document, because it mainly hinges around COD. COD, I think, is the big one. Call of Duty, and Sony have, from what's being reported in the media at least, Sony have hinged their case on this particular game, and as someone that doesn't play COD, I'm going, it doesn't seem like a title for me to make my stand on, but apparently it seems to be working for Sony. But
the thing is, it's. I mean, you can't argue with the fact that the IP that Activision-Blizzard own generates a shit ton of revenue for PlayStation.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and Microsoft at the moment is showing a willingness to share stuff with other platforms. Like just the fact that GoldenEye 64 has been able to be released on Xbox Game Pass just for Xbox, and also the Nintendo Switch Online, shows that they're willing to work together. And then Minecraft Amiibos on the Switch as well, and so right now they're rather magnanimous. And they're feeling like that, but it could change, and it changed with their acquisition of ZeniMax and Bethesda, where Redfall and Starfield suddenly became Xbox exclusives.
Mm-hmm.
So look,
so they have set a precedent, have they?
Yeah, they have. Yeah,
you know, it's not like they've actually gone out and gone, no, look, you can't, like we haven't gated anything. Like they have set a precedent quite early, and if you're PlayStation, you are absolutely well within your right to make sure that you are fighting every battle that you possibly can, to ensure that these huge titles, and I mean, let's be honest, they are huge titles, don't go exclusive on Xbox, and it's your direct competitor.
Yeah. It does feel a bit hypocritical from Sony, though, who over the last couple of years went around buying all those studios as well. Like they bought Bungie, they bought they bought Naughty Dog, and all this. Like how long have they been saying Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to come to Xbox, and it hasn't? You know, it's
right. Yeah. Like, you know, it's all well and good to point the finger, but they're all doing it.
Yeah,
like,
people,
you know,
people in glass houses, mate.
The people who suffer the most out of titles going exclusive are you and me. You know what I mean? Like that's the people who suffer the most in all. Mm-hmm. And we're never going to have a voice or be able to amalgamate the community enough to wage enough of a war by, you know, boycotting content or whatever. Or having a big enough voice to impact those decisions. But ultimately, if they go exclusive with these titles, the people that lose are you.
Yeah. I think one group of people that will probably lose a fair amount if this deal falls through, though, are the workers of Activision-Blizzard, because it's been reported that if the deal does fall through, that Bobby Kotick will remain as CEO of Activision-Blizzard, which to me is a step in the wrong direction for Activision Blizzard.
I don't know that he can. After everything that's happened, I don't know that he can, mate. Like, you know, Bobby Kotick went through so much crap. The thing that saved Activision Blizzard was the announcement that Xbox was going to take them over, which happened not long after the Bobby Kotick stuff erupted, right? Now, we didn't have to sort of retrace the steps on Bobby Kotick, but essentially the entire organization just
toxic as hell.
Right. So the community found out about everything, and allegedly he's a terrible, terrible man and a terrible boss to the people that work around him, and created a really shocking culture. Now, if this falls through, then I feel that naturally headline number one will be what is going to happen with Bobby Kotick. And if he does stay with the organization as the CEO, then I think they're in for a lot of shit, basically.
I disagree, just to put it simply, because there's a couple of things about it that I remember at the time that all this stuff was going through, and I think the only thing that was forcing Kotick out was Microsoft's acquisition, and that's because the board of Activision-Blizzard is a boys' club that are all his mates. And I think if the deal falls through and that board still exists, then Kotick will still be around. And two, shareholders don't care as long as they're still making money. And the titles that they've got, they're going to still make money. And if it's happening under Kotick's watch, that's all they'll see. And so I don't think that... I think internet outrage is very different than real world outrage, and unfortunately, while we sit here and we see the issues that are going on here, and stuff like crunch and the pressure that the developers and staff that are under has been brought into the light a bit more, I still think that these issues still exist, and I don't think at the end of the day that Activision Blizzard as a company will care about anything but money.
We'll see. My only response to that is we'll see. We won't find out what happens. That
is a very good response, because and that's only if the deal falls through, because Microsoft still has some time to respond to the UK ruling at the moment, so they can come in and refute some of the things that were said. I think they've got until April sometime to do that. So and it's the FTC in America has still got to go through the courts as well to find out what goes on there. So it'll be definitely interesting. Like you say, Pete, it'll be interesting, and we'll have to wait and see what goes on there. So next on our list of stuff to talk about, and Pete, you've been away for a little bit, but we set up a command because apparently I talk about The Legend of Zelda a lot. So we have a command in Twitch chat at twitch.tv/GameOnOz, where if I mention Legend of Zelda, bringing it up on my own volition, then people can go !Zelda in chat, and it adds to a counter.
Awesome.
We only started it last week, so it's a little bit low, but no doubt right now we'll be getting some more added to that, because Nintendo Direct happened last week. Of course, we saw Breath of the Wild stuff, which we will get to in a bit, because I'm very excited about, not Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. I keep doing that. I'm already getting excited. I'm getting ahead of myself. But there were a whole heap of other titles that got announced during the Nintendo Direct. Did you see many of them, Pete?
Not enough. The one that really stuck out for me, if I had to pick one, I mean, it was awesome to see Tears of the Kingdom. I know we heard a bit about Kirby. But the one that just absolutely knocked my socks off and blew me away, just because I was such a mad fan, was the Metroid Prime remake.
Oh, how good was that?
And mate, as soon as they mentioned Metroid Prime, all I could hear in my head was and I was there. I was transported right back to that game, and I'm just pumped, because I still think, and don't get me wrong, our most recent iteration of Metroid was fantastic. That we got on was it Metroid Dread?
Yep, Metroid Dread.
Yep. On Switch was fantastic, but I still think these are must-play games. The Metroid Prime series, the trilogy, are absolutely 100% knockout must-play games.
Last week, Stormie and I were kind of making predictions about saying what we wanted to see in there. And I must admit, one of my big ones was I wanted to see more Metroid Prime 4 news, because we haven't heard about that for a very long time. And I really wanted to see more about that game. And while it's not Metroid Prime 4, getting a remaster of Metroid Prime, oh my God. I'm going to be getting the physical copy of that when it comes out on early March. I think like the 3rd of March or something it happens. I am just so keen to play that. And the update on the controls as well. Because I think the moving the camera was a little bit awkward on the original GameCube version of Metroid Prime. But now they've got the more sort of standard forward and back, left and right strafe, and then moving the camera around on the right stick. So I think that's going to be absolutely amazing to play when that comes out, and I can't wait. And I'm trying to pad for time because Pete's dropped out again, and I don't know where he's gone. Pete, come back. That's okay.
I'm back.
That's a Pete. Ooh. I was just extolling the virtues of getting Metroid Prime remaster on the Switch, and I was talking about because they've introduced you can play with the old control scheme, or you can swap to a new one, which is the more standard, like looking around with the camera on the right stick and forward and back, left and right strafe on the left stick. So I think that's going to make that game a lot nicer to play, I think, and I'm definitely going to be picking it up come the 3rd of March, I think it is. The physical copies get released, or the digital copies available now.
Which I'm really excited about the twin stick version of it, because it was a little while ago that I set up my GameCube and I threw Metroid Prime into the GameCube and fired it up, and I can't even explain to you how ungodly awful it felt aiming with the C stick. Like it just did not feel right. It was clunky. Like it was the sort of experience where it made me go, how the hell did we ever at any particular point in time think that playing this way was a good idea? Like it just, and obviously you deal with what it is that you have at the time, right? And that's what you've got. That's what we had, and we were so used to it that it just made perfect sense at the time. But yeah, having gone back after been playing with a twin stick for the last 20 years, it just feels alien. Pardon the. So I'm really excited to enjoy these games with the twin stick. Has there been much of an update on just how many differences? I mean, obviously we've got a graphical update, which is cool. It looks a lot slicker. But is there anything else that we've seen?
Not that I've heard of, but it is being touted as a remaster rather than a remake. So I'm going to guess there's not a lot of differences. And even like Nintendo's history of doing it, like even Link's Awakening, when that came out, that played exactly the same as the Game Boy version, to the point where the glitches were still the same. So, and even though it had been updated with all the nice chibi Link looking stuff, so I don't think there's going to be too much different. And in fact, after this, I'm going to look up some speedrunning stuff to see if those sort of strats that they've been using for years are still there.
There is one thing that's not there, and that is the credits for the original team of designers.
I did hear about that.
Yeah. So Zoid Kirsch, who was a senior engineer on the original, but didn't work on the remake, he dropped a tweet on Saturday that he felt let down because there was the lack of full original credits in the brand new Switch version. So the original technical lead engineer, Jack Matthews, he called it a travesty. He was speaking to Axios, and he was referencing that, when his son plays Metroid Prime on the Switch for the first time, he won't see his dad's names. And it was a real gut punch for him, apparently. So it's, this is a level for level recreation of the first game. Features the same adventure, the same gameplay. It's 2002 all over again. It's just a little bit superior with regards to the modern graphics and having some updates with the control. I mean, I really, aside from the fact that they've been acknowledged in 15 words at the end of the Switch version's credits, right? And like it goes on to say, like, those words are based on the work of Metroid Prime, original Nintendo GameCube and Wii versions, development staff. That aside, they're not credited, and it's their game. They built this game, and all they've done is slapped some lovelier graphics on it. It's a bit sad. If I was them, I would be unhappy as well.
That's it. And I don't think those words at the end are enough. I think you need to be saying a little bit more than that about the original makers of the game. But there's a few other things that we want to get through. I'm going to quickly touch on a few. So I'm excited about Pikmin 4 coming on the 21st of July. There's something about the Pikmin series. I haven't played it a lot, but it just seems like one of those real cozy type games and more puzzly than action adventure-y. And I love the look of it.
I reckon for our vintage, anything that is bullseye Nintendo 64 heritage is always going to be popular.
I think the first Pikmin was GameCube, actually.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, I need to check this. I will be so upset with myself if I've gotten this wrong.
There was the Dead Cells Return to Castlevania. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with Dead Cells. It's this smaller sort of 2D retro-looking platformer and it just plays really well, and they're releasing this Castlevania DLC for it, and it looks amazing. It looks Castlevania. So any Castlevania fans, I think, will be very excited for that. Tron Identity.
Might have to put a Pete was wrong counter next to your Legend of Zelda counter.
I think we can misremember things, and let's face it, it has been a long time, Pete. It has been a long time.
2001. Yeah, real long time.
Yep. So it's been a hot minute since since it came out. But yeah, other games that came out. I want to point out Tron Identity because I'm a big Tron fan. Love the 80s movies. Was met for the Tron Legacy that came out a few years ago. But I got a little bit excited when I saw a Tron game, but it's like a text-based adventure, and I'm looking at it going, "This is not Tron. This is just like a film noir inside a computer type thing." And if you make a Tron game and I cannot ride light cycles, I do not want to know about it.
Oh, that's ridiculous, isn't it? And look, we've spoken at length about how we approach another game that's currently being played, which is Hogwarts Legacy, and we'll discuss that in greater depth in more episodes to come. But it's like having a Harry Potter universe without Quidditch. It just makes absolutely no sense. How can you have Tron without light cycles?
Exactly. Cool.
Like Tron is light cycles, and light cycles are Tron. That's how. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, you know what they could have done? It actually could have been a light cycle Tron game.
Yeah, you could have had a throwback to the arcade machine in Flynn's place in the movie. Yeah. You know?
And they rather than give me story, that actually wouldn't be a bad premise. Like you could literally pull a full game together out of the Tron light cycles.
Yep.
Anyway,
that would be a lot of fun. One that I've become more keen for is Bayonetta Origins, Cerezo and the Lost Demon. So I'm a big fan of the Bayonetta hack and slash style games. This one, when it got announced, it's gone a very different direction, and I didn't like it when I first saw the trailer, but now you saw more in the Nintendo Direct, and it's more sort of a puzzle game, and I'm going, I quite like this. And it follows Bayonetta as a child navigating through some areas, and it definitely is more on my radar now than it was before that.
Yeah, cool. Everybody loves an origin story, man. Bring it on.
That's it. Omega Strikers, I don't know if you saw this one, a free-to-play 3v3 air hockey game, except the players are on the table, and looked really cool, really sort of manic multiplayer gameplay there. Advanced Wars 1-2 Reboot Camp finally got a date. So I've been hanging out for this because it was supposed to come out about this time last year. And then when the war in Ukraine broke out, Nintendo decided it wasn't the right time to release a game about war. So they delayed it and didn't give us a date. It just said, it'll come out eventually. And finally, 21st of April, we'll be getting that. And the last one before we get stuck into the big one was the new stuff for Nintendo Switch Online. And I'm extremely happy because one of the things that I wanted from Nintendo Direct was like a 2D Zelda collection. I wanted to see the Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons. I want to see Minish Cap. I wanted the DS games as well, but they're obviously harder to do. I want
Spirit Tracks. Give me Spirit Tracks. Spirit Tracks was a banger.
But when the announcement dropped for the Game Boy for Switch Online and the Game Boy Advance for Switch Online expansion pack, and I'm looking at it going, well, there's Link's Awakening DX, so that's the version that was on the Game Boy Color. Oracle of Ages and Seasons will be coming later, and then the Minish Cap on the Game Boy Advance side of things. To me, I was looking at this going, I didn't sign up to the expansion pack for the Nintendo 64 stuff. The Game Boy Advance stuff, I reckon, will get me to sign up for the expansion pack.
Yeah, mate, I'm with you there. I think I'd have a crack at the expansion pack over Minish Cap because it's one of the ones that I've never played.
It's a funny one because it came around that time. Oracle of Ages and Oracles of Seasons and Minish Cap were all actually made by Capcom.
Yeah, they're all remarkably unique to what we know of the Legend of Zelda games.
Yeah, no, definitely. I am very much looking forward to that. And even stuff like Golden Sun, which I didn't play on the Game Boy Advance, the Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, which always seemed like a blast to play for that, as well as Metroid Fusion, and for the Game Boy, Metroid 2 Return of Samus is going on there as well. So there's just some really good gaming from my childhood that's making a comeback there.
Bring it on, man.
Now let's get stuck into Tears of the Kingdom. So I think there's two more things for us to touch on. But in terms of the Nintendo Direct, let's talk about Tears of the Kingdom. That trailer, oh my god!
Oh my god as well. I am just look. Let's be honest. Tears of the Kingdom is going to be a lot more of Breath of the Wild. That is 100% what it's going to be, and there's nothing wrong with that because Breath of the Wild is a wonderful, wonderful game that I still play to this very day. So I'm looking forward to Tears of the Kingdom. I'm looking forward to progressing Link's story. The thing that I'm really looking forward to with regards to this game is the things that we saw around Link's arm and around the tech and equipment at Link's disposal. And also the fact that we're taking to the skies. Taking to the skies is going to really broaden the game out and allow it to really differentiate itself from Breath of the Wild, which is great. But yeah, I'm really excited for the tech that we saw that Link has the ability to control in the new game.
And even to the point where it looks like you can build vehicles in it. It getting the car, and then there was the flying thing as well. It looks so freaking cool. And
he's got a giant drone. He's got a giant flying drone that you can control.
Yep, exactly. And I must admit, I'm sitting here thinking, because I love the opening of Breath of the Wild where you wake up, you don't know what's going on, you get out of the Shrine of Resurrection, and it just pans out to the to the whole Breath of the Wild world there, and this new Hyrule that we're seeing. And all I can think of is that I want that experience again in Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah. And I'm thinking there's a way they can do it, and I reckon there'll be like a bit of a prologue where they'll go down into the cavern, they'll find Ganon, the proverbial shit will hit the fan, and then, because we've seen in one of the other trailers, he wakes up in the sky and he pushes those big stone doors open and he's in the air, and I'm just thinking that's going to be that moment from Breath of the Wild. It's just going to open up, zoom out, and we're going to see all these islands in the sky, and I'm just going to I'm going to faint because it's just going to be so good.
And I don't know, I don't know where Breath of the Wild sort of sits in regards to the whole Legend of Zelda series timeline. But I'm hoping taking to the sky also gives us the opportunity to find some Skyward Sword Easter eggs and history if the timeline fits. Skyward Sword is still one of my favourite Legend of Zelda games. And yeah, I think it's scope to actually bring some of that stuff back personally. But to be able to open up the world, open up the history, there's going to be more of the stuff that we love, like the dungeons and collecting equipment and outfits and just general exploration. And this is, I'm already tipping this for Game of the Year.
I my heart says yes, I want to tip this as game of the year, but my brain goes, hold up, son, you got to at least play the game first before you can make that call.
Absolutely. But there's every major Legend of Zelda release picks up 10s. I think this is going to be no different. If it's Breath of the Wild plus, or if it's Breath of the Wild plus plus plus. I mean, what can you say?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a contender at the least.
Well, I think that the history of it is this started out as DLC for Breath of the Wild, but it got so big that they decided, you know what, let's just make another game. Yeah. So I think for the most part, it will be like the landscape will be very similar to Breath of the Wild, but seeing in the sky and what's going on there. Although I will say this new trailer didn't show as much of the sky as previous trailers has.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. I mean, I suppose we know that there's sky there, don't we?
Yeah.
Know what I mean? So show us something we haven't seen yet, which they delivered on, which was good.
Yeah. Cool. I do want to quickly touch on, was there anything that you were wanting that wasn't in that direct, Pete?
No, not really. I was pretty happy with that direct. I think there's enough. I think games companies as a whole really have to be careful of just how much awesome shit, if that makes sense, that they're dropping. Just because there's just so much of it these days. How do we get around to playing all of it? I think Nintendo did enough to dominate. And I mean, really, let's be honest. There are a few really amazing surprises, and there's nothing in life like genuine surprise. And we rarely get the opportunity at genuine surprise. So big tick of the box there. But I mean, let's be honest. They could have just dropped more Legend of Zelda content, and we would have all been happy. So I think if you're Nintendo at the moment and you've got that missile in your chamber of game launches for the year, then the community's already giving you a big tick, and all you got to do is ride that wave. And anything's a bonus, really. So I reckon we got everything we wanted.
Yep. No, it was definitely a big direct, and a lot of big guns in that display right there. I will say though, I kind of wanted a Tears of the Kingdom themed Switch.
We might still get that. I'm not counting out the fact that we won't get that yet. I mean, you also don't want to give too much away, do you?
No. Well, it is still 3 months until the game gets released, so a lot can happen between now and then.
Absolutely. Yeah. Completely agree.
Cool. But one last thing that we're going to touch on before we sign off for the night, because we're getting towards the end of the show now. There was a bit of a meme that I think it was Sticks shared in the Game on Oz Discord, which you can join at discord.gameonoz.com if you would like to hang out with a bunch of cool gamers and some people like me. But it was comparing the Metroid Prime remaster to the Last of Us Part 1 remake, because that was a remake, I'm pretty sure, not just a remaster. And saying that these are US prices, so Metroid Prime Remastered gets released for $40 US, while the Sony Last of Us Part 1 remake gets released at $70 US, so there's a pretty big price difference there. And I think it goes on to point out a few different things and similarities between them, and just how hyped up Sony got about The Last of Us Part 1, and how Nintendo just shadow dropped Metroid Prime Remastered. And I can see why, because myself, I've spoken a lot about I would rather get new games than remakes or remasters of old games. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Of newish sort of games. Because The Last of Us, to me, is still a reasonably new game. And it's had next-gen updates and things like that. Well, next-gen, I think last-gen updates, because it was a PS3 game, wasn't it, Pete?
Say that, which game?
The Last of Us was a PS3 game, I'm pretty sure. No.
Yeah. No, PS4.
PS4, okay. Yeah, so it was a PS4 game. It had a bit of a texture update for the PS5. So, to me, that's still a pretty new game. and here we have Metroid Prime Remastered that's 20 years old, got its remaster, and just gets dropped.
Oh, Jesus. No, hang on a sec. The Last of Us was PS3. No, okay, sorry. Because it came out in 2013, which was the launch year for the PlayStation 4.
Okay.
So it's still within the PS3 tech, and the PS3, the hardware, obviously, because it was only the first year of PS4, but it was a game, I mean, really created for PS4.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, go on.
And well, the thing I'm kind of getting at here is that, like, I am all for bashing getting remakes and remasters too quickly, but to me, I don't think you can really compare the two, because one, $40 US is a pretty standard price for a Switch game, and $70 US is a pretty standard price for a PlayStation game. And wouldn't be surprised when it comes out in Australia, because people could probably tell me, I haven't had a look on the eShop to see what it is, but I reckon that'll be about $70 or $80 Australian for the Metroid Prime remastered.
And I'd pay that. I'd be more than happy for that to be the case, because I reckon I paid $100 for that on the GameCube back in the day. I will say this. I mean, I reckon The Last of Us, The Last of Us is a game from the last 10 years, and a Metroid Prime is a game from the last 21 years, 21 years ago. And if we're comparing remaster with remaster, The Last of Us is surely, and without having played both of them, but without having really picked apart the nuts and bolts of it, The Last of Us is going to have deeper content, more content, more to the game, more meat on the bone. But that's comparing it to a game that came off a really high base. So, if you're talking in terms of pizzas, like the Metroid Prime for its time was a Supreme, and The Last of Us for its time is a Supreme. And then if you're putting them next to each other, The Last of Us is going to look like a Supreme with a couple of extra toppings. You know what I mean? So you pay a little bit more for it. I think the price comparison is fair. I think the prices that they're both set at are fair. I certainly have no issue. And I reckon if you're PlayStation, you're also capturing new audience at the moment because of the Last of Us TV show. And I at the end of the day, like, you really got to drill it down to how much would you pay for that particular experience. Now, Metroid Prime, I reckon Metroid Prime remastered is a $40, $50, even $60 experience. The Last of Us is somewhere still between $70 and $100 worth of experience, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and I think that's, like, to me, the bigger issue is how the time passed between them, and I do also think the Last of Us was a remake, so not just a remaster. It was making it look nicer. I'm pretty sure it was a remake, so they changed stuff under the hood. So I kind of think that it is fair enough. I just think that it's close enough to the original. You could still go out and find the original game. It wouldn't be that hard to find it. Whereas Metroid Prime, it's a lot harder to find. But I'm happy that both games have come out and they found a new audience, and particularly with the success of The Last of Us TV show. Have you been watching that, Pete?
Haven't had a chance yet, mate. I am scraping by day to day by the skin of my teeth in terms of how much time I have up my sleeve. It's also on a streaming service that I don't currently have a subscription to, and I am really firmly against having yet another subscription service because I've just got too many of them and I don't make the use of them as it is. And so I'm going to wait for the entire thing to drop and then I'm going to watch it. But I have been following the commentary closely. And I will drop a cheeky little thing here. I don't know if it will make the cut, but it'll certainly make the podcast. Tomorrow on the show, we catch up with Rove McManus of Rove Live fame.
Ooh.
And him and I spend a fair chunk talking about the Last of Us TV show. And so, yeah, mate, I'm just hearing around me that it is sensational. It's fantastic. Episode 3, episode 5, you read Twitter, you read Reddit, everybody's like, I cried. So much emotion. I can't wait to sink my teeth into this game when I get a chance.
Yep.
But it's this TV show. My friend, I am going to have to call it because I've got screaming kids.
That's right. I think
I've run me night.
I was about to say that's all we've got here. Thanks everybody for joining us at twitch.tv/GameOnOz. If you're not already, give us a follow on socials. We're on Twitter, on Instagram, or on Facebook. I think are we even on TikTok, Pete?
We are on TikTok. Yep. Game_on_Oz. AUS.
Nice. So give us a follow after all those, and we will see everybody next week. Thank you so much.
Can't wait.